Hey, thanks very much. Chuck is here. This portion of our program also brought to us by the Atlantic City Jitney Association. The Resorts Jitney Association began its transportation services back in 1915. They operate hundreds of jitneys, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. The Atlantic City Jitney Association offers you a variety of distinct customer services, including regular route service, rail terminal service, airport transportation to and from Atlantic City International Airport, and they shine in the private events area and more. From my own personal experience, let me share with you that I can declare, and you know me, I don't say it if it's not true, I can attest to the outstanding service that's provided by the Atlantic City Jitney Association. We use their fabulous customized service several times a year to and from Atlantic City International Airport and elsewhere. It's convenient and it's cost effective. And here's why. You don't have to worry about parking your car, leaving it at the airport for days and days. You get a nice, safe, reliable door-to-door service and pickup. It's the nicest thing in the world to know. I mean, we know that in November we will be leaving when it's cold, towards the end of November. It's cold. I can dress for Florida, walk onto that jitney, and then we make 2 other stops, picking up 2 other members, full families, 3 different Hurley family members. And it is just the greatest experience, traveling to the airport together, starting your vacation off on a high note instead of 3 or 4 different vehicles and everybody's racing and parking it, and the daily charge and all of that is just terrific. They shine in their service, whether it's working for Meet AC and the ambassadors that they are with so many different events that are happening here in Atlantic City, where the Atlantic City Professional Jitney Association and their drivers shine. They offer complete shuttle services that are available by calling 609-646-8642. Look them up on the World Wide Web as well at jitneyac.com. And one last favor, tell them that Hurley in the Morning sent you. All right, this portion, as you know, of our program brought to us for the past 25-plus years. We're now well into our 26th year together, me and Chuck. That's Chuck Malamut, the official and exclusive financial advisor to the Hurley in the Morning program, the Hurley in the Morning charity, Harry Hurley. How many other, titles can I give him? He's the managing director. He leads his team, Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield office. 609-383-2010 is the number to put in your Rolodex for all of your financial planning needs. That's if you're planning your retirement, if you're planning college building for your children. And the best thing you could do is you could start that before the child is even born. When you find out that you're having a child, get with Chuck. And it's a whole lot easier to pinpoint out 18 years than deciding to wait until your child is 12 or 14. Hey, Chuck, what am I going to do now? So get started early. You'll be very, very well served by doing that. And the program that you're about to listen to is presented by Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on this program are those of Chuck. They do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. Without further delay, he is back. And Chuck, before we begin the program, I did this last week, of course, and I just want to, again, send my condolences to you and to the entire Malamut family on the just the unbearable loss, the unimaginable loss of your brother Bill. And I have to say, Chuck, that and is your volume good? Is that good?
Good morning.
I have to say I was never more proud of you than last week. That's the hardest thing in the world to do what you did. I didn't know how this miracle happened, but we wound up being within 10 or 12 feet of you, and I just was so proud of your strength, the strength that you showed for Vivian and your entire family. And I'm not surprised because I've known you most all of my life, but I've never been more proud of you.
Thank you, Harry. On behalf of all of us from the Malamut family, just want to say thank you for the outpouring of support. And I mean, we were.
How about that turnout? There was more. There were more people outside of the synagogue than inside the synagogue. In the synagogue, every chair was taken, every pew filled, every chair. There were other chairs brought in. They were all around the back, all around each side, and then there was more people still outside than inside. You know,
Bill, he was just an amazing person, a great brother, touched just so many people in sort of that infectious way. He'd walk into a room and, you know, the room would light up because Brother Billy or Brother Bill, you know, was there. And it was obvious with how many people he had touched over his life, his unfortunately very, very short life, that ended it was just awful. But I was.
Chuck, you had the experience.
I was speechless, Harry, when I walked out. I couldn't even begin to tell you what was racing through my mind at the time, and the same thing with Brother Larry and Bill's 4 children. So yeah, it was just incredible.
You had the experience of losing your dad, so you've had that experience of losing an immediate family member. But was this the toughest thing you ever had to do?
I would say, Harry, it was by far. Undoubtedly, by far. It doesn't even compare to everything else that I've been asked to do in my lifetime. But this was by far the toughest moments, where you just had to dig down and get through it. And sort of looking back and understanding, you know, what had transpired and how quickly it had all happened. Bill's in a better place right now, and
no more pain.
He's peaceful, and you know, we just have to continue, you know, in our vigilant ways. What we do every day is just continue to do what Bill would want for us to do, and you know, work hard, be smart, and do the right thing.
How's everybody doing?
We're doing well. You know, it's short. I mean, you're still. I think, Harry, it takes time, obviously, but I think we're all going to be okay.
Again, Chuck, I was never more proud of you, and. We'll go on to your financial program
Thank
now
you, Harry.
With your market update. Thank you, Chuck.
So, Harry, I know that the last 2 hours, you guys, you know, was like beating it with a stick. You know what transpired last night. It was very, very interesting to watch the futures trade as the debate was taking place, and sort of, you know, punching counterpunches, like as Trump said something and put Hillary on her, you know, back on her heels. The market, you know, went the wrong way. It was basically the futures were dropping, and as Hillary did the same with Trump, the market, you know, moved up. So
I find it remarkable that financial markets would prefer Hillary over Trump, a business person, over someone that is really not known to me for being very, very compatible for healthy financial markets. I mean, we look at the past 8 years. I mean, I know that the financial markets have found a way in this era to really overachieve, but I don't know if it's status quo is better than change, or if there's something that the markets see where they think that actually one is better than the other. But it's undeniable the markets want Hillary Clinton to be the next president. That's a fact, isn't it?
Harry, if you look at the way the markets trade,
I think it's undeniable.
It's pretty. You're pretty much. I agree with you. The markets are looking, you know, for a Hillary Clinton victory, not a Donald Trump, and I think it's more the fear of the known versus the fear of the unknown. You know, Trump. You know, but you know, I think once you work, you know, beyond that.
But Trump's looking to bring $2.5 to $5 trillion, whatever it is, back into America. Could you imagine if that money went to work on Wall Street? He's the one looking to create jobs. I would think Wall Street would be enamored with the possibility of a Reagan-esque president. I mean, the Democrat, and again, we don't talk politics on this show, but we talk realities. Hillary is promising a 65% estate tax on the highest wage earners. That is, they already got clipped for more than half. Now you're saying the event of expiring means you get 65% more taken. That's going to make people have to sell farms, sell sports teams. Families won't even be able to inherit an estate because they won't be able to afford the estate taxes.
Well, look, we're still several weeks away. 2 more debates to come.
Well, I'm not coronating Clinton. I'm just saying I think she's a disaster.
I won't disagree with you. I think, as you know, we don't like to talk about politics during this hour, but right now, and especially yesterday, if you look at what happened in the markets, I mean, oil was up, the markets were down pretty substantially, and a lot of it was being blamed, so to speak, on the debate. Now, as we got through the debate and the media declared Clinton the victor.
Some in the media did.
Well, I mean, the majority from what I saw.
Well, CNBC had Trump. You had Time Magazine had Trump. The only ones that declared Hillary, CNN, that did a CNN ORG poll, but that's not to be surprised about. So I don't know if I don't think I agree with that. What I thought was very interesting, and I thought of you immediately, even though I was very, very sleep deprived, and now I'm even more sleep deprived because I'm on less than 2 hours sleep last night. But I wouldn't have missed it. I wanted to see it. I didn't want to wait for a replay. I could have watched it here in the studio this morning. I wanted to see it in real time and absorb what was really happening, not knowing some of the analysis before seeing it. So I had to stay up, even though I would have preferred to get a few hours sleep. But Donald Trump called out the Fed and called out the Fed chair by name. No. You don't see that every day.
He's certainly not a Janet Yellen fan. There's no doubt about that.
And I want to just go on record as saying this is not on behalf of Chuck. This is just me. I agree with what he said, and I want a pizza over what they did.
Harry, actually,
do you know I won 2 pizzas this week?
Well, no, but I do have 2 pieces of 3-day-old pizza in my trunk. I'll bring it in there on the break, and you can enjoy it.
Now, Capri Pizza, $14 plus $5 for Boris the driver, and then I just call up, and then that's on my credit. That's just what Mark has to do, and I won 2 pizzas this week. Did I not promise you there would not be a rate increase? Did I not declare it?
Harry, it was an easy bet.
Well, you made it.
And I did make it, but I think on the flip side, if I was correct, I would have been enjoying significantly.
So the upside was just worth the,
it was
the
absolutely,
low,
yeah. I mean,
the low-level risk.
You bet $14 or $20.
19. Yeah, because Boris gets 5
to potentially win 600. I mean, it's not a bad thing. But anyway, we will make a date.
Hey, incidentally, I'm very, very proud. Billy Mutt continues to lead the Malamut for entertainment only. We always like to stipulate that entertainment only annual pool. This is a very challenging Malamut weekly football situation because you have to play with the points. And it's always very, very challenging. Billy Mutt has led wire to wire all 3 weeks.
And I just want to you're right, correct, Harry. And
yeah.
I think the last time I looked, I was maybe slightly ahead of you.
Barely, but you are.
Okay.
But I'm within striking distance.
It's only end of week 3.
Hey, I got the video of me and Billy. You want me to do it right now? No. I'll make the same wager with you.
It's only end of week 3, and I don't want to I don't want to start pounding my chest yet. I think we can wait a little bit for that. But speaking of Janet Yellen,
yes.
So last week, as you know, the markets had a pretty good week. 2 substantial days of rallies. The Dow was up about almost 1%. The S&P was up 1.2%. The Nasdaq was up 1.2% as well, and all the global markets were up as well. So, and that was pretty much on the heels of what was discussed. And as everyone had anticipated, the Fed did nothing. And the Fed was pretty dovish, Harry, in their comments, and also. There were some dovish comments coming out of the Bank of Japan at the same time. So as we go back and look, the 2 sectors that pretty much led the market were utilities and real estate. Energy lagged, even though there was somewhat of a increase in oil prices. So what is happening now is we looked at the Fed. They certainly signaled during the last meeting a rate hike in December, and as we all pretty much understood.
Why don't they just all admit they're political though, Chuck? You know, they go out of their way. We're not political. The FBI, all these Friday document dumps, we're not political. It's not time for that. Give me a break. They're not doing a rate increase that you know they want to do because they want to help the Democrat win the presidency. Then they're going to go do it in December. And by the way, would you like to do a double or nothing that they do raise in December?
No. A double or nothing.
Double or nothing, which means you owe me 2 pizzas or none. If
hold on, what do you the side you're taking is that you say they're going to increase?
I'm guaranteeing a rate increase in December.
But Harry, we pretty much said that leading up to the meeting, so I'm not going to take that bet from because
right. Thank you.
I mean, I'm of the opinion unless the numbers change dramatically over the next couple months, what the Fed looks at, they're going to make this move. So
hold your thought. We're coming right back. It's 20 minutes past the hour. The official financial advisor to the Hurley in the Morning program, Chuck Malamut. No phone calls during Chuck's program, but you can reach Chuck, and he loves to take your phone calls at 609-383-2010. 609-383-2010. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Don't go away.
Hurley in the Morning.
With Chuck Malamut, it's 24 minutes past the hour. So I think we kind of did the market update. We did a little bit of the Fed, but let me turn it back to you.
Let's go back to the Fed, Harry, because you unfortunately, now you're on the side that I'm on about the rate increase in December.
Well, not now. I was always on that side.
All right. Well, now you're clearly on that side. But
no, I was clear before.
But the Fed,
it's okay. Clear. I'll take the microphone. Don't worry. Just for the record, since I have this opportunity, I always said that there would be no rate increase before November 8th, that there would be an increase in December. Chuck Malamut.
Yeah. So Harry, what happened? If you look at Yellen's comments, it clearly indicated that they're coming in December, or they're coming soon. We think in December.
Yeah.
Provided that the economic growth that we have seen remains on track, and there's no shock to the global financial systems like we had most recently with Brexit. So if you look at the comments, what they said was, quote, the committee judges that the case for an increase in the federal funds rate has strengthened, but decided for the time being to wait for further evidence of continued progress towards its objectives, end of quote. So if you kind of read into it, it's pretty obvious, unless the train comes off the tracks in the next, next 2 months or so, we're going to be looking at an increase in December. Now, is this considered their annual increase, or is this considered, are we now stepping in the right direction as far as, how many times?
But if they weren't political,
and how often?
If they weren't political, they would have done the rate increase now, but they intentionally didn't. Just like we get the FBI documents on a Friday before Labor Day, the Friday before the presidential debate. We're going to get more documents after the election. I mean, I think what the American people want, they want more transparency. If we're due a rate increase because the fundamentals are there and that this should be done, they should have done it.
Harry, looking at some of the strategists and analysts that basically follow the Fed and the economy, the Fed's target was initially, to get to that 3% rate. It looks as if now that has been moved back down to a prediction of about 2.875 or 2 7/8.
That's because they're at 0.25 at the moment.
And the way they anticipate, getting there is that between now and I'll call it mid-2019, 5 hikes, and those hikes on average the total, let me back up. They anticipate at the end of in 2017 to be at 63 basis points, then moving up by roughly 50 basis points a year, up into the point in time where you get to that 2.875. But, a lot can go on between now and it seems like a long time, 2019.
Have you been seeing the people, I don't even want to say this, the R word, but there are people now talking about that things seem to be lining up for a recession. What do you think of that?
Harry, there was a fair amount of discussion over the summer about it, and it seems to have waned somewhat. So
good.
I don't think
we don't need that anytime
I don't
soon.
think that that's going to be happening. But the fact is that if you look at monthly payroll job growth.
By the way, because I want to go back before job payrolls and that. Because this has been the most peculiar, unprecedented recovery in the history of America, nobody can deny that. If we were just putting math on paper, you can't deny that. So don't let the word scare you. This is the most bizarre. It is the most unprecedented. It's the most anemic recovery in the history of the United States of America. Having said that, most people in America don't feel, if you ask them the question, now there are pockets where the economy is roaring and it's different, but if you ask the majority of the American people, they will say we're still in recession. Would this qualify as, I guess literally it wouldn't, but sort of figuratively, would it qualify as double dip, almost like we didn't even exit one before we were in another?
Well, statistically, no.
Right. But how about psychologically?
Psychologically, potentially, yes. Because if you look at the lack of wage increases, and it's only been within the last year that we're seeing some wage increases. That I mean, a lot. You talk with a lot of people, and there are a lot of pockets in this country, including where we live, unfortunately, where it feels like, Harry, we are living through very, very tough times and potentially, a recession. But it's the stats that get printed, and it's the way they are presented.
And I would agree with that. We're going to take a quick halftime break, coming right back. One more power segment with Chuck straight ahead. I guess I would only add to that, though, Chuck, before we go, that even though literally, statistically, by the numbers, it wouldn't be, if it feels this way, then that is people's reality, though.
Perception is reality.
Yeah.
Yes, correct.
And I think probably significant majority of the American people feel a certain way, even if the numbers say differently. This portion of our program also brought to us by the exclusive golf club to the Hurley in the Morning program, Harbor Pines Golf Club, owned by the legendary Gerwicks family. They're at 500 St. Andrews Drive in Egg Harbor Township. Mondays, very, very special. It is Senior Mondays. Just $49 every Monday through the entire fall season. Take full advantage of this at harborpines.com. Advanced tee times are required, or dial 609-927-0006. The happy hours continuing all fall season long. Also, the live music and the Friday night 8-ounce Maine lobster tail dinner, which is phenomenal, for $25. It's just terrific. And if you pair that with a 9-hole special golf rate after 4:30 p.m., you can have quite a Friday at Harbor Pines. Reservations, again, are required, not suggested for this or recommended, required. 609-927-0006, extension 19. And finally, enjoy Sunday evenings at Harbor Pines Golf Club. Prime rib night featuring live music, prime rib, salad bar, side dishes, $14.95 per person. A wonderful evening Sundays at Harbor Pines Golf Club. Reservations are strongly recommended. And again, the phone number, 609-927-0006 to reserve, extension 19. Tell General Manager Alan Greenman, Director of Special Events and Marketing and all kinds of great work that Deb Stevenson does. Tell Deb that I sent you Hurley in the Morning. And again, you're listening to Chuck Malamut, our official financial advisor here on the Hurley in the Morning program. To reach Chuck for all of your financial planning needs, 609-383-2010 is Chuck's direct number, 609-383-2010. Back in a few minutes. Hey, thanks very much. I'm with Chuck Malamut. He is our financial advisor for the Hurley in the Morning program. We're in our 26th year of doing this program on Tuesday mornings in the 8 o'clock hour. You can reach Chuck for all of your financial planning needs, and you'll see as Chuck unfolds his, I think, perfected, wonderful concept of total asset management coupled with the all-important asset allocation, showing you exactly where you are now and getting to know you and know where you want to be down the road in the future. And I unconditionally recommend that you sit down with Chuck, and you'll be very, very pleased. And I think you'll be comforted, because I think a lot of times people want to get to the finish line. They just don't know how to get there. So if you don't make plans, you're not going to get there. 609-383-2010. I want to send a shout out to guest listener John because he always leaves me these amazing things. He knows I love movies. Here are two incredible Tom Hanks movies. I just love both of them, The Green Mile and also The Road to Perdition, because that is an incredible cast. Paul Newman, Jude Law, and Tom Hanks. And there's also a very, very cool DVD here about the DC-7B. So I look forward to learning about that. So, John, thank you. And as always, thank you for your support to the Hurley in the Morning charity. Chuck, time is yours.
Harry, I think we kind of had the complete beatdown on the Fed, and it's time to move on. So, we talked, continuously about inflation, and it looks as if, the core CPI, or Consumer Price Index, was up 0.3% during the month of August and is now up about 2.3% year over year. So, on a comparative basis, inflation is starting to move a little bit higher. As we look at the economic growth, and I know you always want to get the baseball bat out when I talk about economic growth, because in your world there virtually is none, but 2000.
I just want it to be great again.
2017 on a comparative basis is going to look very, very similar, we think, to 2016. So as we started this year, as you remember.
So you're looking at fractional GDP growth.
As we started the beginning of this year, we expected U.S. growth to remain slow but avoid the recession that we just kind of chatted about. As we look at it now, we see a similar environment to where we were last year, Harry, but we think it's possible that we might even see slower levels of growth in 2017 versus 2016.
How much slower could you go?
It can go slower.
So you're talking like barely above zero.
It's very,
GDP.
it's very possible. But
speak to the word inflation. Are we experiencing inflation at the present time?
Well, we are, Harry, because if you look at inflation, measured at 2.3% year over year, that clearly indicates that we have inflation. So you have a pretty tough environment here where you have slow growth and potential inflation. So, but I think a lot of this is again predicated on, what can potentially happen as we get to the latter part of this year. Will things change? Several hundred miles south of here, and I think we'll get a very good indication fairly quickly as to what 2017, will look like. I mean, the environment as we look at it is pretty mixed. Based on the political environment, is pretty mixed, Harry, based on what we're seeing with equities. I mean, again, you're not going to, please don't hit me over the head with this, but Clinton has a very, very narrow lead at this point in time. Her policies, at least we talk about like what does Wall Street think? The policies offer a little more clarity, which would be a net positive for the equity markets. It's very, very obvious she's going to push for more government regulations. Both candidates are at this point in time have pretty much put out there an anti free trade policy. I think they both pretty much made those statements, but that's not necessarily great news for equities. And the fact that given the globalization, and you have the deflation outside of the U.S., the two can converge, and that might not necessarily be great, for fixed income either at this point in time. The silver lining that we have, Harry, is that, we've talked about infrastructure spending and how important that is, and some possible corporate tax reform. So, you just have to tread. I think right now you got to tread very, very carefully. The one thing that we would take a look at is that U.S. equities still, Harry, at this point in time, look to be a little more attractive than what is happening internationally. Remember, we went through Brexit. It was just awful for the the UK.
Would you agree not as bad as advertised, though?
It seems to have calmed down somewhat. It's like anything else. It kind of got off the front page, and now they have to work through, everything over the next several years. But it looks as if our market, we have, the growth rate seems to be better here. We have stronger earning trends and a more supportive, monetary policy. So, if global trade levels increase, it could be more constructive for non-U.S. equities. But at this point in time, I would probably, Harry, be a little more concentrated in the U.S. Versus international.
Chuck, the only thing I disagree with what you said, and I know you're going, to credible market research when you say it, but in the polls as of today, Donald Trump leads Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton does not lead Donald Trump.
I think it's pretty much from what
it's very close.
We're seeing, it's sort of a deadlock, it could go either way. And,
yes. Yeah.
I know there was a lot of rhetoric last night about Trump having a cold and
sniffles,
not being healthy, and et cetera,
which is kind of hilarious based on what we've seen.
Yeah, so
but that's all part of bizarro world.
But I think, Harry, to kind of conclude here, equity prices have advanced fairly significantly over the last several weeks. Central banks, signaled they're going to continue to promote growth and provide liquidity. So the Fed remains the only central bank that's looking at a potential rate increase. Although they're going to move very, very cautiously.
But when they increase, though, other things increase.
Here domestically, not internationally.
Yeah.
So, I think again, the next several weeks need to be a little cautious, but that doesn't mean that we don't abandon equities in its entirety, because oftentimes, as when we get in situations like this on a long-term basis, it provides some pretty significant opportunities.
Chuck, did we talk about United States versus international equities?
We did, Harry.
We did. I'm just making sure. Chuck, great as always. Welcome back. Missed you last week, and it's great to see you here
Harry,
in studio.
thanks for having me. We'll see you next week. Thanks, buddy.
Best in the business, Chuck Malamut. For all of your financial planning needs, turn to Chuck Malamut, the official financial advisor to Hurley in the Morning. You can reach Chuck and his team, the Malamut Group, at Morgan Stanley's Northfield, New Jersey office at 609-383-2010. The program you just listened to, the melodious one, Chuck Malamut, a financial advisor at Morgan Stanley. The information, views, and opinions expressed on Chuck's program are those of Chuck Malamut, do not necessarily reflect those of Morgan Stanley or its affiliates. They are current as of the date of this broadcast, subject to change without notice. Neither the information provided nor any opinion expressed herein constitutes a solicitation for the purchase or sale of any security. This presentation is for informational purposes only. Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, member SIPC. And I have major breaking news when we come back. It's a national story. I knew it, but I couldn't prove it until now. And you're not going to want to miss it. It is relative to Trump v. Clinton, and you'll have the facts, not the spin, but dispassionate, undisputed facts when we come back. It's Hurley in the Morning.